Hey, what's going on? My name is Avi. This is Command and Conquer Fitness. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm now going to put on my sunglasses because it is bright out here. Just wanted to make eye contact with you from the very beginning. Today, we're going to be doing part 3 of the series, the Muscle Up Progression Exercise you probably never heard of, which I am now calling the Muscle Up Assist. If you didn't check out parts 1 and 2 of the series, go ahead and check them out. I'll put links to the videos in the description. In part 1, we did an overview of the Muscle Up Assist itself, what the exercise is. In part 2, we talked about mental cues to focus on while executing the exercise. Here in part 3, I'd like to talk about how you can integrate this exercise into your program. First and foremost, you want to keep this movement explosive, right? The whole point of this movement is to help you progress towards the muscle up, and then once you can do a muscle up, to increase your rep count. So you want this, just like the muscle up, which is the quintessential explosive movement, you want this movement to also be explosive. That means you don't want to be doing reps close to failure. You want to stay in that 3 to 5 rep range, and when you're on the last rep of the set, you want to be feeling good, leaving some gas in the tank. Because if you're failing out, right, if you're doing the 3rd or 4th rep and you're like really grinding it, your velocity is low by definition, right? When we're failing, we're either at low velocity or 0 velocity, right? We're just grinding out the rep. So we want to keep that velocity high, never get to failure on this exercise, or very rarely, I would say. We want to keep that focus explosive, and we want to stay in that 3 to 5 rep range, because just like any technical movement, any explosive movement, if the rep count gets too high, our form is going to degrade, which increases the risk of injury. And again, the whole point is to stay explosive. So we want to keep that focus. We want to keep our form tight, and we want to keep our nervous system firing fast, fast, fast on all cylinders. So we're going to stay in that 3 to 5 rep range. Find a weight that's heavy enough to respect, light enough to not fear. In other words, a weight that you could probably, if you failed out, get like 8 to 10 reps. That way, if you're doing 3 to 5, you're getting nowhere near failure. You're practicing high velocity. You're training your nervous system to stay sharp, and that's going to carry over to the muscle up very, very nicely. Now, what are we doing as far as sets, right? Because we're keeping the reps pretty low here, we're going to have to do more sets, right? High volume modality works really, really well with this exercise. So 6 sets of 3 where you're not going to failure, you're getting tons of neural practice. So you're training your nervous system, right? Strength is a skill, especially the muscle up. You're practicing the skill of the movement with 6 sets of 3. You're going to get a lot of practice in. It's going to make you more proficient at the movement. You're getting a lot of volume in, so you're going to get some nice hypertrophy in the mix. But that's what I would recommend, generally speaking, is 6 sets of 3, maybe 4 sets of 5, depending on how you're feeling. You could also do kind of a grease the groove mindset with this exercise as well. So for those of you not familiar with grease the groove, it'd be like, let's say you had this this machine in your gym. Like, let's say you had a gym that was right by your house or in your house. Like, in other words, very accessible. What you could do is just kind of every hour or two when you're thinking about it, just knock out a set of 3. It's taking that 6 sets of 3 within an hour period, but to the extreme, right? Because you're doing it throughout the day. You're getting tons of practice. It's like shooting a bow and arrow, one shot every 2 hours. It forces you to get practice in a recurring period over many, many hours. And you would do this every day or nearly every day. You could take an off day every 3rd or 4th day. But grease the groove works really well. If you don't have the time or ability to do grease the groove, most of you probably will not, because you either don't own a gym, or if you do have your own gym, a lot of people don't have the assisted pull-up machine. But if you are able to do the grease the groove, it works super duper well. And for most of you that don't have the opportunity to do grease the groove, 6 sets of 3 is still going to work super duper nicely. So you're getting that high volume, moderate intensity, right? 8 to 10 rep max. And then the effort's also going to be moderate because you're doing sets of 3 to 5, but you're focusing on that explosivity. That's what I would say for this exercise predominantly, the recommendation. Now, keep in mind, though, as far as exercise variety, since this is a partial range of motion exercise, right? We're starting here. We wish in an ideal world that we could start here, but because we're multi-purposing the assisted pull-up machine, one of the sacrifices we have to make is we start in this partial range of motion position. Now, what that means, since full range of motion is so essential to full development, I wouldn't recommend using this exercise as your only movement in the arsenal, even for a temporary period towards building your muscle up. You're still going to want to focus primarily on weighted pull-ups, negative muscle ups, L-sit pull-ups, muscle-ups themselves, if you can already do them, right? These are your fundamentals. You want to keep building those up as your foundation. And then this muscle-up assist is kind of like a supplementary exercise. And it's an accessory exercise at its essential nature. So you could, like, in theory, of course, a full discussion on programming is a different video, and we will be talking about that in the future. But for now, an example of how you could do this is, like, let's say that you've got 3 sets of 5 for L-sit pull-ups on the day. You could do those 3 sets, and then afterwards, as a supplement, you could maybe do 3 sets of 3, or if you have the time, 6 sets of 3. Again, not going to failure, keeping that explosiveness high, keeping that velocity high. That's a way that you could do it, and you're getting tons of neural practice, right? So you're getting the skill practice, you're getting the hypertrophy. Since you're not going to failure, you're also not going to be impeding recovery. You're going to be optimizing for recovery. You're going to be able to train like this very often. And that's what's cool about this exercise. You can do it a lot. It's a skill-based exercise. It's not as much a strength-based exercise, in my opinion, especially because of the partial range of motion, right? You really want to use this for skill building, for technical building, for explosive building. You want to keep your velocity up, keep your velocity going up over time, right? So that's how we can do that. I think that's pretty much it as far as recommendations on how to build this one in. It's not the main component. It's kind of icing on the cake, accessory, but man, it just kicks butt. You can kind of mess around with this though and integrate it however you like. I don't think you can really go wrong with it other than using it as your main foundation for building the muscle up. You really want to focus on full range of motion exercises whenever you're building anything up, whenever you're working to any kind of strength goal in the gym. You want to focus primarily on full range of motion. That's super duper critical to thorough muscle development and strength development. But aside from that, you really can't go wrong with this guy. Staying in that 3 to 5 rep range, I think you're going to find that with being able to increment the weight stack in a very progressive manner, just a super effective exercise overall. I hope you enjoy it. If you liked this video and found it helpful, please feel free to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more content. We're going to have a lot more coming out here in the next few weeks. In the meantime, it's Sunday. It's a beautiful day here in Alameda, California, and I'm about to go enjoy taking a walk. Have a nice day.